Today we're building a walkthrough Capuchin Monkey Habitat. And of course, because it's Capuchin monkeys, it's very cursed. Alright, to explain why this Capuchin Monkey Habitat is cursed. First of all, the shape. So I really don't like having like long straight lines in my habitat, because if a line continues for usually more than 8 or 12 meters, it very quickly becomes boring. And it becomes very difficult to make that line, at least to me, interesting. And when it comes to this habitat, it's located on the side of the old raccoon and skunk habitat. So if you remember that area, then you will remember that on one side we have the bike storage or the bike parking. And then on the other we have the big warehouse of Naturalis. So these give two long straight lines that I can't really break, because I'm not going to tear those buildings down, because I really like them actually. So then it was just like, alright, this is going to be a challenge to break those lines from a guest point of view, because I can't physically like really change those lines if I don't tear those buildings down. So then it was just like, alright, how do I make it so that from a guest point of view or like a human point of view, how do I make it so that these don't look like straight lines? Easiest answer is the one that I went for, which is rock walls. Because rock walls always have like the indentations or like outcroppings. Like they're never completely flat and straight. So that made it so that like, oh yeah, it is like from a bird's point of view. Or like if you look at a zoo from Google Maps, yeah, it's a rectangle. But when you're actually walking there, it doesn't really feel like it. And that's the most important thing. When you're walking around a zoo, you might think like, oh, this habitat is really interesting and such. And then you look at it on Google Maps and it's just a complete rectangle. And you're just like, huh, it didn't feel like a rectangle. And that's where they get you. And that's also where this habitat gets you. But anyways, so barring the human point of view is more important than how it looks from above. Because no guest is going to launch themselves 20 meters into the air and then be like, oh, this habitat is actually a rectangle? Now I hate it. Nobody's going to do that unless you're insane and want to get arrested, because I don't know how you would be able to launch yourself into the air legally. But anyways, the other thing of this habitat, besides, oh yeah, there's the straight lines that I have to kind of break, there is the other thing that is actually a good thing, which is the sightline. Because this habitat is located on the sideline of the main path, because the main path that goes to this area actually curves around to go into the staff area. But because your sideline doesn't curve, this habitat is just straight into that sideline going from the main path. So I immediately realized, alright, on this curve, I need to make sure that there is the interesting spot. There's like the viewing area. So I made that viewing area a little bit higher than I would normally do. Normally I would try and make these viewing areas a little bit like 3 meters high. But here I just went with the full 4 meters. Frontier is going to be very happy because that's their standard height, it seems. But I made it that height just because, alright, now it's really drawing attention. It's really just forcing you to look at the habitat. And because there's the glass walls, you can easily look into the habitat and just like, right as you're on the main path, you immediately know, oh, that's monkeys. You also hear the monkeys because it's Capuchin monkeys. Those suckers scream like hell. It's the reason why I don't really like building for them. But then I decided, it's like I want like the central area of Naturalis basically to be a mixed match of American, like North American and South American animals. I first wanted to make this habitat a walkthrough habitat for lemurs, because I do remember having like a lemur habitat somewhere in the Netherlands that I really liked. Mostly because the lemurs were just all over me, and it's really fun because they're just like, I don't know, for me, lemurs just look dumb, and I like that. Like Capuchin monkeys look too smart. Also, I think somebody once said to me in the comments of another video, maybe back in the Kayan al-Bashar days, that Capuchin monkeys are assholes. So that made me also unwilling at first to build for them. But then I realized, I might want to put the lemurs in the African area because they are African area or animals. Lemurs are African areas. They're tiny African areas then. But anyways, and then decided to like, all right, it's going to be capuchin monkeys. Yes, they're going to scream, but I play this game pretty much on mute anyway. I basically placed it paused constantly, so it's going to be fine. I just have to bear it. And also the capuchin monkeys are just kind of funny. Like, I don't know why, but for me, capuchin monkeys, whenever I pause them to take like a screenshot or something, they are always broken. And that's just funny to me. Anyways, the other thing is, of course, the curves, because I did have half of the habitat where I could do the curves. Although I did kind of minimal curves because they're like the viewing area is just like straight lines. So there's a little bit of like straightness to it. But anyways, because of those curves, the entrance, because this is a walkthrough habitat, but the entrance for the guests also had to be curved, which was hell. So when it comes to the entrance to the walkthrough or the Capuchin Monkey Habitat, I wanted to do the sliding doors. I always want to do sliding doors for the habitats, like automatic sliding doors, because I don't know if this is true, but it just gives me the vibe of like, oh yeah, this is a little bit more like disability or like wheelchair accessible. Well, because you don't have to like pull a handle to get the door open or something. It's just like you come close to it and it just automatically opens. It probably will have like some kind of like sensor of like, oh, you are a human. You're not the size of a capuchin monkey. Now I can just foresee that like, oh, if it's like a toddler walking through the habitat, the doors will just not open for them because the sensors think this thing is too small. This is a monkey. We're not going to allow that outside. Well, in a way it's true because humans are apes. I never really care about the difference between an ape and a monkey. For me, it's just all just like, yeah, we're all just chaotic messes. Like, just look at a chimpanzee. Look at a gorilla. Do you think they have their life together? No. Why do you think they fling shit? Anyways, back to the actual habitat. So, the other reason why this habitat was cursed, it's not because it's like an aviary. It does have the mess and such because, of course, I now know how to really build aviaries. So now I'm going to build them everywhere. But the other reason why this habitat is cursed is because you might see this throughout the video, but sometimes the video will just kind of pause. And that's not because like I am not wanting to build or I'm looking at something, which most often is the case because I have like Pinterest open on my second screen looking for like inspiration. But this time it's because the warehouse is cursed. Not the entire warehouse, just the wall connecting it to this habitat. Like for some reason, as soon as I start building close to that wall, the game just freezes every time I place something or I recolor something or I delete something. It just freezes for a minute. And so I think I actually cut most of it out except the last bit, but I actually built quite a lot in another zoo. Like I just made a new zoo, just an empty map, and started building this section close to the actual warehouse there because yeah, I don't have the patience to constantly wait because for some reason somebody didn't clean up their satanic rituals in the warehouse. Like, hey, if you slaughter goats, at least clean it up. You know, care for other human beings. Or demonic beings. They also don't like your fucking mess. I'm blaming Karen. Like, I think that, like, the evil serial killer red panda mascot that I keep bringing up because I just like that idea that after dark, Naturalis just becomes a place of murder. And there's just like a red panda, like, I'm going to call him Trevor. His name is going to change constantly because I keep forgetting the names, but like Trevor just was a Red Panda mascot, but eventually just snapped, and now he is living in Naturalis, only comes out at nighttime. And if you are found in Naturalis after dark and you're not a staff member, he will just cut you into ribbons. But I don't think he is the one that left the satanic rituals in the warehouse. I think it was Karen, because she's a bitch. And she is entitled as hell. So she probably thought like, oh, somebody else is going to clean it up. They have people for that here. Yeah, no. I want to set Trevor on Karen now. You would probably do that if you ask. Anyways, I made this habitat also, of course, into kind of an aviary or just like a mesh thing, because it just felt appropriate. Because I don't want just like the way that I did with the caracals, where there's just half of it. I really wanted this to just be a full one. But then I also didn't want to make it like a completely curved one. So there's a slight angle at the bottom where it connects to the walls. And then everywhere else, it's just completely flat on top. Which is a really easy way to do a aviary or aviary kind of thing. Because when it came to like the leaf aviary or the armor leopard aviary, the most difficult thing was everything is curved. Like even the roof. Well, actually some parts of the roof aren't. They are flat because it's like the connecting bit where all of the curves come together. And then it's a lot easier and a lot less sending you to a mental asylum if you just make that part flat. But anyways, I really like building these aviaries now. Now that I've like really gotten the hang of it. But that's also been like a lot of things when it comes to me building. It's like, oh yeah, I really find this easy and like I really like doing this now. And then I post it on Reddit or Twitter and people are like, how the fuck did you do this? How the fuck are you finding enjoyment out of this? And then I'm like, oh yeah, but curves to me are really easy and such. And then I need to realize, yeah, Poison, you're preaching from a fucking mountain. Not even a mountain, you're preaching from outer space. Because I have 4,000 hours in Planet Zoo. I just found out. I thought it was 3 or 3,500, but no, it's 4,000. I don't have a life, please send help. But yeah, I need to realize like, yeah, after that amount of time, if I haven't figured out the game by now, I probably should just give up. But I have figured out the game. And now I can torment people by building curves. Which again, like this habitat to me was like really easy. The leaf was a little bit more tricky, but this one was really easy. And this is the way that I built curves. Funnily enough, as soon as I start building curves, and here's the thing, when it comes to these voiceovers, I barely register what's on screen. That's why sometimes when I'm editing the voiceovers and I'm not looking at the screen, the voiceover gets out of sync with the actual video. So I will start talking about something way earlier or way later than it's actually on screen. But here it's surprisingly fits. Just wait until this video gets out, Poison, because it's probably not going to light up. Also, why the fuck am I talking in third person? That's annoying. But anyways, so when it comes to building these curves, like these curve spots for the inside, to me, this is just like really easy because you just lay out the circles and then you delete the sections where they intersect so that you create this whole flowing curve. To me, that makes perfect sense. But then again, I'm preaching from a mountain or out in space. Like I'm legitimately just like in a black hole at the end of the universe. It's pretty cold down here, but I feel at home. You know, my soul is already dead. Well, I never had a soul. My heart is dead. So it kind of feels like home. I really just like cold areas. Like if you ever ask me like, hey, will you go to California or will you go to like any place where it's warm? I will just be like, maybe in winter, but never in summer because bitch, I will melt. I'm the wicked bitch of the West. I think for a lot of you guys, I'm from the east, because a lot of you guys are in the US, which if you look at the US and then look at the Netherlands, the Netherlands is to the east. So am I then the wicked bitch of the east? I don't know. Anyways, I should probably get back on track with the actual video, but as you know, I am unhinged, which I love, but doesn't make for a really educative or followable voiceovers, which I also love. But anyways, back to this actual habitat. So the reasons that it's cursed by this point is because of the warehouse and its straight lines, and because of the straight lines of the bicycle parking place. Now, another reason why this habitat is cursed is again because of the warehouse and because it freezes there. But I actually, like, not at this point, like now I'm building like the rocks and like really laying out the habitat. But like at the beginning, when I had like the paths and such laid out, I had all of the terrain work done. I didn't have the walls and anything built, so it was luckily at a very early stage. But I actually saved over the Naturalis save file. So I had to restart from scratch. Luckily not with the entirety of Naturalis, because I don't have this with any other game. Like in any other game, I just basically smash my hand on my keyboard and like whatever word forms will be the name of the save file. But when it comes to Naturalis, I have it saved per episode. So I was just like, alright, I need to just go back to the Amur Leopard episode and continue building from there. So luckily not everything was lost, but damn did I panic when I realized, ooh, I saved over it. Because, as I said, I built in like a completely blank zoo just to get the area close to the warehouse finished. And damn was I just like, what the fuck happened? Where is it gone? Also, this is a thing when it comes to like city skylines. Like at the time, yeah, performance when it was released wasn't good. The frame rates were really bad. It's now a lot better, but I couldn't complain at any point. I was just like, this is a lot faster than Planet Zoo. And then I went into that blank zoo and then I realized I have basically just trained myself to accept low frame rates, because I actually needed, like, you have the widget, like, for once I actually remember the name of like the tool that you use to move things, but the widget, and you can set the speed of that. Like you can set it to half speed and I think 4% speed or 40, like 0.4 or 0.5. I don't know why it goes to 0.4 and not 0.1. For some reason that always annoys me. But yeah, you have it. Usually you have that one. But when it came to that blank zoo, I had to actually stick it to 0.5 constantly because it was just going way too fast for me. I was just like, nope, I don't have any control here anymore. I don't like it. Let's slow this thing down. So I had to physically give myself a handicap. Yeah, that was great. And I actually posted it on Twitter of just like, oh yeah, I played this in a blank zoo because the other zoo, or because Naturalis basically is cursed by this point. And how the fuck does Planet Zoo go this fast? So yeah, that was fun. Also, if you don't know, or if you are actually interested, because maybe some of you guys are, but I do post sometimes, not all the times, but most of the times I do post like updates on like what I'm building on Twitter. I don't really do it on Instagram or anywhere else. It's just like to do it on Twitter because it's fast, and like I don't want to clog up the community post with that. So if you want to see like, oh, what was Poison building, or how does he build his habitats, like what are the stages that a habitat goes through or a build goes through, yeah, look on my Twitter. Am I now marketing my Twitter? That's something new. I don't know. Well, is this good marketing? I don't know. I will not give you chicken nuggets if you go to my Twitter. Like, none at all. You will not get chicken nuggets. But now I want chicken nuggets. I just had food and now I'm already making myself hungry again. Anyways, I also need to actually thank Goron for this Capuchin Monkey Habitat, because I was just like, I have never really built for, well, I have built for monkeys. I've mostly built for the lemurs and the, what was the other monkey? The one that likes to bait. I forgot the name of the baiting monkey. It's the one Asian monkey that we have. But yeah, I usually don't have any clue when it comes to like, oh, what's the interior for a habitat or words, poison. But I never had a clue of like, oh, how am I going to do like the interior for a monkey habitat? Because especially with like capuchin monkeys and such, they might not like it when the weather gets really cold. And because Naturalis is supposed to be a Dutch zoo, it will get, well, not really that cold, but you know, capuchin monkeys come from the jungles, I think, of South America, or at least a warmer area than the Netherlands. So when it gets colder, they might want to keep them inside. So I was just like, I have no idea how the inside of a monkey habitat actually looks. I've never really paid attention to them. When there's a red panda habitat, I'm just like, fuck you monkeys, here are the red pandas. Or actually any other animal. I don't know, I never found monkeys that interesting except lemurs, because those are just really dumb looking. Like if you're a monkey and you look kind of dumb, I will like you. That actually goes for a lot of animals. If you just look stupid, I will love you. But yeah, anyways, just to get back on track with like why thank Goron. Basically, Goron provided me with images because he goes to a lot of zoos of like, oh yeah, this is how the interior of monkey habitats look. Specifically like the sort of same size as like a capuchin monkey. So he had some lemur habitats. I think he had one capuchin monkey habitat interior that he showed me. Or was another monkey. Probably another monkey, but then again, I keep saying monkey and ape. Well, actually, I almost never say ape. I really don't. Well, actually, in Dutch, I would call it ape, but that's because in Dutch, I don't think we really have a different word for like ape and monkey. We all just call them apen, which in English translates to apes. So somebody once mentioned on, I think, Reddit of like, hey, do we have any other monkeys? And I was just like, yeah, we have some, I think, a handful maybe, probably not. And then they said like, oh yeah, and in Europe they don't really put that much distinction. And I don't know if that's true. I just know that in Dutch, I don't think we really have a word for it. Although, then again, you never should ask me anything when it comes to language, grammar, or spelling in general, because I have no idea how I got through those classes in school. Like, at all. I was the archie nerd that kept to themselves. I wasn't good at spelling or anything. I just kind of did my thing and luckily got a passing grade. But yeah, maybe we do have like a word in Dutch and then Goron is just going to be like, you are a idiot. And he has the full right to do so because I am an idiot. I will just confirm that and admit that to myself. I am an idiot. But I'm also the wicked bitch of the East nowadays, it seems. Anyways, back to the actual video and the build. So when it came to the interior, I saw like a lot of like different things that Goron showed me of like, oh, you could do it like this or this, this, this. And then I was just like, yes. Like not even questioning further, just yes. Anyway, so I did a lot of the different things. I wanted to have like platforms attached to the wall where the monkeys could sleep. I wanted to just have mayhem because if you have monkeys in your zoo, you are going to have mayhem. So just basically embrace the chaos, embrace the mayhem, and then everything will be fine. Also, funny thing that I figured out, you have the straight ropes and then you have the hanging ropes. Funny thing is, I was just like, oh yeah, I want the hanging rope to go from the interior to the exterior. Or basically go from the interior that you're seeing now and what we've just built outside. Funnily enough, if you place the straight rope, they can get out. But when you use the curved rope, they can't. So I was just messing around with that entrance because I wanted to keep the entrance quite small because they're small monkeys. So they would have small entrances for getting in their interior habitat and their exterior habitat. Yeah, I just fucked around with that so much, like trying to increase the platform. Maybe that made sense. Maybe use a different material for the platform because the material that I used isn't climbable, so maybe that would work. Nothing worked. And then I changed that rope. And then I found out this is all that's keeping my monkeys from not being able to get inside is just this fucking rope. I will burn that piece of rope. I still use that like hanging rope in the interior and on other parts, but whenever I now need somewhere where like monkeys need to be able to stand on, yeah, I'm not going to use that anymore. Anyways, now we are going to do some other things because now the habitat is done. And then I realized we have a lot of roof space. So of course, what is Poison going to do when he has a lot of roof space? He is going to get distracted and start continuing to build that. So I made some solar panels because Naturalis is supposed to be this all about the environment as such. Even though Naturalis is also really like Naturalis is, and I've said this multiple times already, but Naturalis would be the most stuck up zoo you would find. Like Naturalis execs wouldn't be able to twerk because all you would be hearing is from the stick in their ass hitting the ground. So that's how stuck up the execs of Naturalis are. But they do care about the environment, so they have one good thing. Although they do let a serial killer live in their zoo. However, the serial killer cleans up after himself and only takes away trespassers and Karens. I don't know if we should reward Trevor or if we should basically let him be. I almost want to reward him. But anyways, I mean, I've watched way too many Five Nights at Freddy's videos by this point. But yeah, I wanted to make some solar panels because I wanted to use the solar panels that were on the workshop. But then I decided, no, these aren't really the right size. So I wanted larger ones. So I made them myself. And it was actually surprisingly easy. Although when it came to like actually mounting them, because when it comes to solar panels, you can have them like nice and flat when they are on like a sloped roof. But most roofs in Naturalis are completely flat. Now you can also just lay them flat on there, but I think it's more interesting to have them also on an angle there. So I made like a bit of mounting thing where they could set it so they're like, oh, the sun is like really bright today. Let's make sure that it's like really angled nicely at the sun. And first I wanted to have them go along the length of the building, but then I realized, oh, the length of the building isn't going to get the optimal sun because it's like angled west and east, but the other side, it's south and north. And you want usually to have your like solar panels to kind of face south because that's where you get the most sun. So then I angled them southwards and I could place a lot more. So I was really happy with that because I just spammed 6 solar panels there, and yeah, that's another 3,000 pieces. Oops. Now I realize that the reason that the warehouse is probably cursed is because there's probably somewhere in there where there's like 10,000 pieces that I haven't seen yet. Probably. Although I also just think that the warehouse is just cursed. Again, if you do any satanic summoning rituals, clean up after yourself. Even the demons don't like a mess. this is your friendly reminder to just clean up after yourself, otherwise the demons will clean you up. And not in a fun way. Anyways, then I needed to build access to the roof. Because when you have solar panels, you do need to maintain them and such. And also you just need to get access to the roof sometimes. So I didn't want to have like a building or like, well, sort of like a building on top of the roof where you would usually have like a stair leading down. And then you have the building on top with the door, just the shield, well, not shield it, but just to, you know, keep the inside and outside really separate. I didn't really want to do that, so I just made a trapdoor kind of thing. Just basically a... How do you call this? I don't really know. Let me know down below in the comments. But anyway, so I made that. I then also realized you will probably need like an actual pathway on the roof then. Like, yes, when it comes to like, oh, you're close to the solar panels and such, then you just open a gate and then you are just on the roof. But to get there, I thought like, oh yeah, it makes a little bit more sense if there's actually a pathway going here, so that you have like a safe route here. I don't know if that like follows logic, that like the pathway stops as soon as you get to the area you need to be. Such as I also rebuilt the roof of the... I wanted to call it air conditioning room, but it's not that. It's like the freezer where like they keep all the meat for all of the carnivores in Naturalis. So that's obviously going to have like a lot of air conditioning units and such. All of the machinery to keep those areas cold. And just, this probably is like the area for all of the air conditioning in the entirety of like the warehouse. All of that like cluster of buildings. But like the pathway stops right there. Like the pathway doesn't actually go fully to the air conditioning units. But for me that kind of made sense, because with the pathway you would need to have like completely against the air conditioning units, and that didn't make sense to me. So it made more sense to me to have like the pathway stop at like a reasonable place where you're close enough to the actual units, or let's say for like the solar panels, it stopped right at the top of the roof. So you have like a ladder to get on top, and then there's a little bit of like a path left. And then you have a gate that you can open to get onto the actual roof. So the pathway is somewhat suspended above the roof. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but it looks like it made sense. And when it came to the air conditioning unit, I just looked one up a lot. That's the fun thing when it comes to like trying to build realistic things. A lot of it is in a way easy, because you can find a lot of like the smaller things online of like, oh, I want to build an air conditioning unit. Yeah, you can just look up an industrial air conditioning unit. Actually, if you think about it, a lot of things are just easy with the internet, because you can just look things up. Now, the most difficult thing was to build a fan, because all of these air conditioning units, like everyone that I looked at, was just like, oh, it had a fan on top, because of course the heat needs to get out somewhere, and like it was very difficult to actually make that, because I actually cut out 30 minutes of me just like looking through the entire catalog, looking for something circular, because when it comes to these fans, I always saw them have like this circular pattern of like this grate over the fan. So then of course like birds don't fly in and such. But we didn't really have pieces to use for it, because yeah, it's tiny things. Again, I really hope now that with like the next updates, like they showed us the gift shop, that we get like a lot of like small pieces as well, because it's always the small pieces that are really useful for these kinds of things. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. So if you liked it, throw a curse at the like button, and if you want to see more, throw a Trevor at the subscribe button. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye bye.